In a small-town classroom, shy Lily Thompson hides behind her books, unnoticed until bullies tear her shirt in front of everyone. What happens next shocks the room silent. One kick changes everything. Watch her rise in a story of courage and secrets unveiled. Subscribe now for more gripping tales. Lily Thompson was the kind of girl who blended into the background like a shadow on a cloudy day. At 16, she was small for her age, with mousy brown hair that fell in a curtain over her face, hiding her hazel eyes from the world. In the bustling halls of Jefferson High, a small-town school in rural Ohio, she was practically invisible. She liked it that way. Attention meant trouble, and trouble was something she avoided at all costs. Her worn sneakers shuffled quietly along the linoleum floors, her oversized sweaters drowning her slight frame. She carried her books like a shield, clutching them to her chest as she navigated the crowded corridors, dodging the loud laughter and careless shoves of her classmates. Lily had mastered the art of being unseen, but that didn't mean she was safe. It was a crisp October morning when everything changed. The air smelled of fallen leaves and pencil shavings as Lily slipped into her third period English class. Room 24 was a familiar prison, with its rows of scratched desks and faded posters of Shakespeare and Hemingway tacked to the walls. She took her usual seat in the back corner, near the window, where she could stare out at the gray sky and pretend she was anywhere else. The classroom buzzed with the usual chaos, kids tossing paper wads, whispering gossip, and scrolling on their phones before the bell rang. Mrs. Carver. The teacher was late again, probably stuck in the staff room complaining about her workload. Lily opened her notebook, her pencil scratching out doodles of stars and spirals, her mind drifting to the fantasy novel she'd been reading the night before. She didn't notice the trio of girls at first. They were the kind of group that commanded attention without trying. Cassie Reynolds, with her glossy blonde ponytail and designer jeans, flanked by her loyal sidekicks, Mia and Jenna. They called themselves the Queens of Jefferson, a nickname they wore like a crown. Cassie was the undisputed leader, her sharp blue eyes always scanning for a target. Lily had been on their radar before, but she'd always managed to slip away. Her silence, her best defense. Today, though, something felt different. The air was charged, like the moment before a storm breaks. Cassie's laugh cut through the noise, high and cruel. Lily's shoulders tensed, but she kept her head down, hoping to stay invisible. She heard the scrape of a chair, then footsteps. Too late she realized they were coming for her. Cassie stopped in front of Lily's desk, her shadow falling over the notebook. Mia and Jenna flanked her, their smirks like wolves circling prey. The rest of the class was starting to notice, heads turning, whispers fading into an eerie quiet. Lily's heart thudded, but she kept her eyes on her doodles, her pencil trembling. "Hey," Mouse Cassie said, her voice dripping with mock sweetness. That was their name for her mouse, because she was quiet, small, and, in their eyes, insignificant. Lily didn't respond. She never did. "What's with the bag lady look today?" Cassie continued, reaching out to tug at the sleeve of Lily's oversized sweater. The fabric was thin, worn from years of use, and Lily flinched but didn't. "Look up. You know, you'd be almost cute if you didn't dress like you live in a dumpster." The class snickered, a ripple of laughter that made Lily's cheeks burn. She gripped her pencil tighter, willing herself to disappear. But Cassie wasn't done. She leaned closer, her breath hot on Lily's ear. "Let's see what's under. All this, huh?" Before Lily could react, Cassie grabbed the hem of her sweater and yanked. The threadbare fabric gave way with a sickening rip, exposing the faded t-shirt underneath. It was a plain gray shirt, nothing special, but it was Lily's, and the violation felt like a blade. The class gasped, then erupted into laughter, phones snapping photos, the sound swallowing her whole. Lily froze. Her mind blank, her body locked. In place. She wanted to run, to scream, to vanish, but her limbs wouldn't move. Cassie stepped back, triumphant.
Oh.
Tossing the torn piece of sweater to the floor like a trophy, Mia and Jenna high-fived, their giggles piercing. The rest of the class watched, some laughing, some whispering, none stepping in. Lily's eyes stung, but she refused to cry. Not here. Not in front of them. She stared at the desk, her vision blurring, her hand shaking so badly the pencil snapped in her grip. Then something snapped inside her, too. It wasn't anger. Not exactly. It was something deeper, something raw. Years of silence, of swallowed words and averted eyes boiled. Over in a single moment, without thinking, without planning, Lily stood. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor, and the room went quiet, the laughter dying like a flame snuffed out. She didn't look at Cassie or the others. She didn't look at anyone. Her gaze locked on the desk in front of her, a heavy wooden thing bolted to the floor. She raised her foot, and with a force she didn't know she had, she kicked it hard. The desk didn't move. But the sound was deafening, a sharp, echoing crack that seemed to shake the walls. Books and pencils scattered, clattering to the floor. The class went silent, every eye on Lily, every mouth shut. Even Cassie froze, her smirk gone, her eyes wide with something like fear. Lily stood there, breathing heavily, her torn sweater hanging off her shoulder, her face flushed, but her expression unreadable. For the first time, she wasn't invisible. She was a storm, and the room felt it. Mrs. Carver burst in a moment later, her coffee mug sloshing as she demanded to know what was going on, but no one spoke. Not Cassie, not her friends, not the classmates who'd been laughing seconds before. They just stared at Lily, who stood motionless, her hands clenched at her sides. Mrs. Carver's eyes darted from the scattered books to the torn sweater, and her face softened. "Lily," she said gently, "come with me." Lily didn't argue. She grabbed her backpack and followed Mrs. Carver out of the room, her head high, her step steady. The silence followed her, heavy and unbroken, as the door clicked shut behind them. In the hallway, Mrs. Carver asked what happened, but Lily only shook her head. She didn't trust her voice, didn't trust herself to explain the fire in her chest. Mrs. Carver sighed and led her to the principal's office, promising to sort it out. Schools like Jefferson didn't sort things out. They swept them under the rug. In the principal's office, Mr. Hargrove, a balding man with a permanent frown, listened as Mrs. Carver explained what she'd seen. Lily sat across from him, her torn sweater still hanging off her shoulder, her hands folded in her lap. She didn't speak, didn't defend herself, even when Mr. Hargrove asked why she'd vandalized school property. The desk, apparently, was more important than her dignity. He gave her a week of detention and a warning about disruptive behavior. Cassie and her friends got a slap on the wrist at their school cleanup for a day. Justice, it seemed, was as uneven as the school's. Warped floors. Asterisk, but the story didn't end there. Word of the incident spread like wildfire through Jefferson High. By lunch, everyone was talking about the quiet girl who'd kicked a desk and silenced a room. Some called her crazy, others a hero. Lily didn't care. She sat alone in the cafeteria, her tray untouched, her mind replaying the moment over and over. She wasn't proud, but she wasn't ashamed either. For the first time, she'd fought back, even if it was just a kick. It was something, asterisk, that afternoon, as Lily served her first attention in the library. Sorting dusty books under the watchful eye of Mrs. Jenkins, the librarian, she noticed a boy watching her from across the room. His name was Ethan Carter. Signor, with dark curls and a reputation for keeping to himself. He wasn't popular, but he wasn't an outcast either, just someone who existed on the edges like her. Caught her eye and smiled, a small, knowing smile that made her stomach flip. She looked away, focusing on the books, but she felt his gaze linger. The next day, Ethan found her at her locker. He didn't say much, just handed her a folded note, and walked away. Lily waited until she was alone in the bathroom to open it. In neat handwriting it read, "You're not invisible. Meet me at the bleachers after school if you want to talk." Her first instinct was to crumple it and throw it away. She didn't trust people, especially not boys with kind eyes and cryptic notes, but something stopped her. Maybe it was the memory of the desk, the way it felt to be seen, even for a moment. She tucked the note into her pocket and decided to go. The bleachers behind the football field were rusted and empty, the grass beneath them patchy from years of neglect. Ethan was waiting, leaning against a metal beam, his hands in his pockets. He didn't waste time with small talk. "I saw what happened," he said. "You didn't deserve that. But you surprised everyone, even Cassie." Lily didn't know what to say, so she just nodded. Ethan went on, his voice low but steady. "You're stronger than you think, Lily. Don't let them make you small again." It was the first time anyone had called her strong. She didn't believe him, not really, but his words stuck with her, like a splinter under her skin. They talked. For a while, about nothing and everything: books, music, the way the town felt like a trap. Ethan wasn't like the others. He didn't push, didn't pry, but he saw her. And for reasons she couldn't explain, she let him. Over the next few weeks, Lily and Ethan became an unlikely pair. They met at the bleachers most days after school, sharing stories and silences. He told her about his mom, who'd left when he was 10, and his dad, who worked double shifts at the factory. She told him about her grandmother, who'd raised her after her parents died in a car accident when she was 6. She didn't talk about the bullies, and he didn't bring them up, but the weight of that day lingered between them. Meanwhile, Cassie and her friends didn't let up. If anything, Lily's outburst made them bolder. They whispered freak as she passed in the halls, left cruel notes in her locker, and once dumped her books into a trash can. Lily endured it, her silence, her armor, but Ethan noticed the toll it was taking. One day he suggested she fight back, not with fists or desks, but with something smarter. "You're good at writing," he said, pointing to the notebook she always carried. "Use it. Tell your story. Make them listen."
Ow.
Lily wasn't sure she could. Writing was her escape, not a weapon. But the idea grew, taking root in the quiet moments when she was alone. She started journaling about the bullying, the shame, the anger. Words poured out raw and unfiltered, filling page after page. She wrote about the day in English class, about the desk, about the silence that followed. She wrote about Cassie, about the way power twisted people into something ugly. Slowly, she realized Ethan was right. She had a voice, even if it was on paper. Asterisk, then came the twist no one saw coming. One morning, as Lily walked into school, she found the halls buzzing with a different kind of energy. Flyers were taped to every locker, every bulletin board, every classroom door. They were photocopies of her journal, pages her words, her pain, her truth, laid bare for the entire school to see. Someone had stolen her notebook from her backpack during detention and spread its contents everywhere. The words she'd written in private were now public, and there was no taking them back. Asterisk, panic seized her. She wanted to run, to hide, to disappear, forever. But as she stood frozen in the hallway, something strange happened. People weren't laughing. They were reading.
Oh?
Some looked at her with pity, others with guilt. A few even approached her, offering quiet apologies or awkward nods. By lunch, the school was divided. Some called her brave, others called her pathetic. But no one called her invisible. Cassie, though, was furious. She cornered Lily in the bathroom, her face red with rage. "You think this makes you special?" She spat. "You're still nothing." But for the first time, Lily didn't look away. She met Cassie's eyes and said, "Maybe, but everyone knows what you did now." Cassie flinched, and in that moment, Lily saw something she hadn't expected: fear. Not of her, but of the truth. Asterisk, the fallout was swift. The flyers led to an investigation. Cassie, Mia, and Jenna were suspended for a week. Their parents called in for a meeting with Mr. Hargrove. The school introduced an anti-bullying program, though Lily doubted it would change much. Her notebook was never found, but she didn't care. The words had done their work. They'd made her seen. But there was another twist. Late one night, Ethan confessed something that turned Lily's world upside down. He was the one who'd taken her notebook. He'd read it during detention when she'd left her bag unattended, and he'd made the copies. "I wanted to help," he said, his voice breaking. "I thought if everyone saw what you went through, they'd stop. I'm sorry." Lily was stunned, her trust in him shattered. She walked away, refusing to speak to him for days. Alone again, she wrestled with her feelings. Ethan had betrayed her, but he'd also given her a voice. The school was different. Now quieter, kinder, at least for a while. She wasn't sure if she could forgive him, but she knew she wasn't the same Lily who'd hidden behind her books. She was stronger, not because of the desk or the flyers, but because she'd survived. In the end, Lily started writing again. Not for revenge, but for herself. She sent an essay about her experience to a local newspaper, which published it anonymously. It sparked a town-wide conversation about bullying, and for the first time, Lily felt like she mattered. It's fine. She and Ethan eventually talked, their friendship bruised, but not broken. He promised to earn back her trust, and she promised to keep using her voice. The story of the quiet girl who kicked a desk spread beyond Jefferson High, becoming a legend of sorts. Lily didn't care about the fame. She cared about the girl she was becoming, someone who wasn't afraid to be seen. Loved Lily's story. Hit that subscribe button for more tales of courage and unexpected twists. Drop a comment below and let us know where you're watching from. New York, Texas, California, or somewhere else in the USA. Your support keeps these stories coming.